This is All India Radio. In the program Spotlight, now we bring you a discussion on India's strong ties with Bhutan. The participants are Professor Mahendra Lama, expert on international affairs, and Nilova Roy Chaudhary, journalist.
India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar has just completed a two-day visit to Bhutan on April 29th and 30th, primarily to inaugurate some connectivity projects, including 2 roads, but also to reaffirm the crucial importance of the India-Bhutan relationship. Dr. Jaishankar was Bhutan's first high-level visitor from abroad since March of 2020, when the COVID-19 pandemic struck. And this in itself perhaps is reflective of the great importance that both countries attach to their bilateral relationship. In fact, the Foreign Secretary designate, Mr. Vinay Srivastava, was also part of the External Affairs Minister's delegation. Sir, could you please tell our listeners in what way is the India-Bhutan relationship so unique? Why is it so crucial for India to ensure that relations remain this unique and exclusive with Bhutan?
India-Bhutan relations are a diverse base, something like you can talk about cultural base, historical base. You can also talk economic, environmental, and to a large extent even strategic or the military basis for cooperations. 2 very important elements in India-Bhutan relations is that India has been the topmost partner as far as the development process in Bhutan is concerned. India is one country that has consistently, big way, supported the Bhutanese development process throughout its development plans. In fact, in the very first plan in 1950s, India used to be the sole development agency there. Today, you have a number of development agencies, including multilateral agencies like Asian Development Bank, World Bank. So India has been the key partner. The second is India-Bhutan relations is regulated, bound, promoted by a very comprehensive agreement signed in 1949, Friendship Agreement, which was revised and made much more comprehensive in 2007. And under these agreements, you have a free flow of people from Bhutan to India, India to Bhutan. You have an open border system, and to a large extent, you will also find that the Bhutanese currency, gultrum, is largely protected by India because India and Bhutanese currencies are pegged 1-to-1. That is, Bhutanese rupee gultrum 1 is equal to India's rupee 1. So, to a large extent, Bhutanese, even the foreign exchange situation, is promoted and protected by India.
So, Dr. Jaishankar, in fact, said that given our long-standing ties and special bilateral partnership, Bhutan was the natural choice to be the first country to receive the Covishield vaccines under our Vaccine Maitri initiative. And he said the relationship is based on a genuine concern for each other's welfare and interests. He also talked about the financial connectivity having reached new heights. I mean, as you said, the rupee and the Bhutanese currency are pegged 1-on-1. And he also added that not just the RuPay card and the BHIM app, which were inaugurated when Prime Minister visited there in 2019, but there's also going to be an India-Bhutan satellite launch, which is due to be taking place shortly. So what exactly do these linkages signify? And if I may ask slightly uncomfortable question, does China remain the elephant in the room in this relationship also?
Well, everybody knows that Bhutan is located in a very strategic position for a country like ours. Bhutan, say for example, when we did the 1949 agreement, we always considered Bhutanese northern portions with China as actually India's national security points, precisely because that was the understanding. And Bhutan shares borders with Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, Bengal, Sikkim, and if Bhutanese has to go to Nepal or Bangladesh, it has to cut across Indian territory to go to these countries. So it is a landlocked country that way. strategically very important for us. And secondly, all these sea routes are given access to Bhutan by India, including in western part or southern part of India, and of course to Bangladesh, Chittagong, the port. What is very crucial in between Bhutan and India is India has consistently participated in the infrastructure development projects in Bhutan. You can talk about roads, you can talk about education institutions, hospitals, you can talk about hydropower projects. Say, for example, I give you one example of hydropower projects. Bhutan literally had very few megawatts of hydropower projects, hydropower capacity, installed capacity in the beginning of 1980s. And in 1986-88, India signed the Tukha project agreement and implemented it 336 megawatt. And from 336 megawatt to today's 2,326 megawatt installed capacity in Bhutan, India is the sole partner in the entire development process. Yeah. You know, you'll be surprised. Today, Bhutan earns almost more than 16 billion rupees every year. 9% of its GDP is exports of hydroelectricity to India. 38% of its total exports is hydropower exports to in India. And we think that by 2030, 2040, Bhutan's per capita income would be highest possibly in Asia if they develop. In the entire process of development of hydropower projects, what we have in 2021, India also allowed Bhutan to export electricity to neighboring countries, including Nepal, and I think it will be true in case of Myanmar and Bangladesh also.
Bangladesh also, yes.
Yes, it is a massive project going on. And we have the integrated checkposts for trade with Bhutan at Phuncholing, Jaigaon, in Assam, also in Baranga. What is very important in all these trade points is our Bhutanese are showing very keen interest to look to really do something substantive with India. And what Bhutan is actually doing is, it is consolidating its look south policy. That is basically India, Nepal, Bangladesh, Myanmar. So the idea that Chinese would do this project, that project, I think first of all, geographically it is very, very difficult for the Chinese to do anything in the mountain areas. You have seen that in case of Nepal also. But what is very critical at this juncture for India is to really transform its development participation in Bhutan. India must give emphasis more on development of institutions. India must develop internal connectivity projects, say for example from the western to eastern Bhutan, from the northern to the southern Bhutan. And of course, India must promote large number of service sector industries in Bhutan. Because Bhutanese are very, very sensitive about environment. They have their own gross national happiness project. So India must do nothing to do with manufacturing sector and all kinds of things, but on services like tourism, education, health. And we have seen from corona-related interventions, we have seen how much warmth it brings in India, Bhutan, Nepal. It's just one set of vaccine changed the entire scenario there. I think Bhutan became the first country to become totally vaccinated also.
Indeed. External Affairs Minister Jaishankar said a very interesting thing when he was addressing the media after inaugurating this four-lane road from Jungshina to Subachu and so on. He said that India's development cooperation paradigm is unique and prompted as much by economic impulse as by moral principles and emotional bonds. Why would he use a term like moral principles in talking about the development relationship, the paradigm that he's talking about? Moral principles would mean what?
Moral principles is in the context of India's history. Even the pre-independence history and the post-independence history, despite being a lowly lying developing country, we were a very poor country. We did not give up providing economic assistance to a country like Bangladesh, Nepal and Bhutan. In fact, in all these three countries, including Sri Lanka. So our moral obligations lies in the fact that in the entire development philosophy, we have a principle of growing together. One. Secondly, we have a principle of collective self-reliance. And the third is, of course, we have a principle of supporting our neighboring countries.
So the other thing that is very striking and very, very interesting about the India-Bhutan relationship is the fact that the connectivity that we are trying to develop, it's essentially wanting to help Bhutan to be able to develop on its own the overall growth paradigm of the entire region through India, as well as exclusively sort of helping each other grow as a region. So all of South Asia through India is part of the sort of paradigm, I think, that is attractive to most of our neighbors also. Would that be a correct assessment?
India has developed infrastructure, connectivity projects in the past 30 years, more so in the last 10 years or so, in the neighboring countries and with the neighboring countries, with a view to giving them access to larger global market, joining supply chains, value chains. What has also been seen is these are not adequate. For example, it was fine in 1990s and even in the first 10 years of this century. But today we have a Bhutanese population. You have a new generation in Bhutan who have much, much higher aspirations. And they have seen the global world, what is happening. One. Secondly, you have China in South Asia coming in a big way. You have seen how Chinese have done in Sri Lanka, where what they have done, what they have not is of course debatable, but the way they have come to Bangladesh, to Burma, to Nepal, to Pakistan, it is something like we could never think 30 years back that this will be the situation like. And in order to deal with all these, India must have all big projects in mind. Small projects, incremental support would not do. Therefore, I think you can see in the last few years at least, India has started talking about big projects, totally road, waterways, electricity connectivity and all. And I think that is the only way to keep all these countries together as far as regionalism, sub-regionalism is concerned.
I think in the case of Bhutan also, what has genuinely helped them and fostered the bilateral relationship is the institution of the monarchy. But the monarchs have been, particularly the present monarch, His Majesty Jigme Sesar Namgyal Wangchuk, and his father before him, have been incredibly visionary and realized the potential in the India-Bhutan relationship and therefore stuck to it. So perhaps that has also helped very much to foster this relationship.
Well, as far as Bhutan is concerned, monarchy in Bhutan has been the core element in the entire political economy there. Particularly the last king, Jigme Singh Wangchuk, has been a brilliant and an extraordinarily visionary. There were very serious problems in Bhutan with regard to its own citizens, Nepali-speaking citizens, coming out of the country, popularly known as Lotsampas, and staying in Nepal for almost 12 years, 15 years, and they are now resettled in countries like US, Australia, and all these countries. And also, you'll be surprised, India maintained a neutral stand, saying that, look, this is your matter, we don't like to intervene, despite the fact that India has been one of the most vibrant countries as far as the hosting of refugees are concerned. Bhutan also knows that when it comes to really a policy of non-interference in its domestic issues, India has consistently supported them. But the reality is that Bhutanese monarchy have themselves realized the fact that people's aspirations in Bhutan need to be matched by the more liberal political attitudes. That's why we have a constitution since 2008, 3 consecutive elections, democratically elected prime minister and the cabinet. And where, again, in doing all these also, India had a major institutional role in terms of institutional support.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Professor Lama.
Thank you very much.
You were listening to a discussion on India's strong ties with Bhutan. The participants were Professor Mahendra Lama, expert on international affairs, and Nilova Roy Chaudhary, journalist. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of All India Radio. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of All India Radio. You can listen to it on our mobile app News on AIR. This program is also available on our YouTube channel News on AIR Official.